Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for watching this presentation. My name is Camille Coron. I am an assistant professor in Université Paris-Saclay. I will now share my screen. So in this talk, I will present you two situations in which we aim at combining a data set with different natures or coming from resulting from different protocols when estimating ecological or environmental parameters or quantities. Our approach in these two situations will be quite similar, though the two programs are in fact quite different. In fact, our approach consists in simultaneously modeling all the data sets that we have through a probabilistic model and to estimate the parameters of this model using the different data sets. So the two situations are the following. First, we are interested in species monitoring. I will mostly speak about this situation, in fact. And the second situation comes from air quality monitoring. In both cases, we have a similar context in which we will use multiple sources of data due to the fact, for instance, that we have access to different programs to access to devices with a different quality or different features, measurement devices. And also because we have access to different types of data, for instance, on one side, model outputs, and on the other side, some measurement data. So what we want in both cases is to combine these different data sets. And other interesting questions are what is the interest of each data set? And should I spend more time or money on this data set or on that other one? So let's focus on the first situation, which is species monitoring. So this is a joint work with Christophe Giraud, who is a statistician working at Université Paris-Saclay, Romain Julliard, who is a conservation biologist working in the Muséum National d'Histoire Naturelle, and Clément Callange, who is a biostatistician working in the French Office of Biodiversity. So our aim in this work is to produce some species abundance, relative abundance map of what is this kind of map. So you have some space, let's say this square, that is divided in some subregions, and we want for a given species to be able to compare its number of individuals living in the two different regions. To this aim, we have two data sets. The first one is a standardized data set, which means that observers had to go to a precise location and stay for a precise amount of time and report all the observations of the species of interest. So the standardized data set provides a lot of information, like the total amount of time spent on the field, for instance. On the contrary, we have an opportunistic data set that comes from the citizen science program, in which observers can go everywhere for the time, the duration they want, and report or not their observation. So this opportunistic data does not give any information, but due to this very almost no protocol, we have that this opportunistic data set is very large. So we have a very important amount of data. So our aim here is to combine both data sets to benefit both from the information brought by the standardized data set and from the large amount of data brought by the opportunistic data set. So let's take a look at the real data set that we will use. So we consider birds observations in Aquitaine. Aquitaine is a region in the south of France, you can see here. And we have three observation data sets. The first one is a standardized data set, as I mentioned previously. So space has been divided in 33 regions. There are 12 species of interest in this data set. And in each subregions, you have 10 points, 10 observation points, on which one observer stayed for exactly 5 minutes and reported all his or her observation. The second data set is an opportunistic data set. It's just a website on which anyone can register and report his or her observations of birds that he or she has seen or heard. Here you have 34 species of interest and a lot of observations that are distributed non-uniformly over all the space. And the third data set, I will explain later how we use it, is a standardized data set like the previous one, but with less sites, but the same species here than in the opportunistic data set. Now, let's take a look at, let's see how we can model this data. So first we index the regions by J and the species by I, and denote by Nij the abundance of species I in region J, which means the number of individuals of species I living in the region J. And what we want to estimate is the ratio Nij divided by Ni1 for all I and J, which means that we want to be able to compare the number of individuals of a given species in two different regions. To this aim, we have two data sets, a standardized data set indexed by k is equal to 0, and an opportunistic data set indexed by k is equal to 1. So what are the data that we have? So we have x for all ijk, we have xijk, which is the number of observations for the species I in the region J and for the data set k that belongs in N. And it's quite natural and classical to assume that this number follows a Poisson distribution whose parameter is the abundance of species I in the region J times an observation term that gathers all the behavior of observers. Our main, now our assumption, our modeling assumption is that this observation term OIJK is the product of a term that depends only on the species and the data set and a term that depends only on the region and the data set. Here, this first term will typically take into account the detection and reporting probability, whereas EJK will typically take into account the time spent by observers on the field. So I recall the model. We have XIJK that follows a Poisson distribution with parameter Nij times Pik times EJK, and we want to estimate Nij divided by Ni1 for all I and J. Here it's not possible like this because you can multiply all Nij by lambda j, let's say, and divide all Ejk by lambda j. In that case, Xijk follows the same law, but the ratios Nij divided by Ni1 have changed. But what saves us here is the presence of a standardized data set for which we can assume that the ratio Ej0 divided by N1 and E10 is known for all J, which means that we can compare the effort made by observers into subregions. This gives us, I don't have time to explain why, but due to using an appropriate change of variable, we can prove that this gives us that the ratios Nij divided by Ni1 are identifiable using the data Xijk. In fact, we have here a generalized linear model for which we can give a maximum likelihood estimator. So I recall that we are interested in Nij divided by Ni1, and we denote by Nij the estimator of this quantity, Nij hat. So our theorem is the following. The first thing is that the expectation of this estimator indeed converges when the effort Ej1 goes to infinity towards Nij divided by Ni1. Here, this means that we need the effort in the opportunistic data set to go to infinity or to be very large, which is exactly what we expect from opportunistic data. The second part of the theorem is that the variance of this estimator converges to when, again, when the effort in the opportunistic data set goes to infinity towards the variance of the same estimator, but using only the standardized data set times a parameter that is lower than 1. So this means that as long as the effort in the opportunistic data set is large enough, then the variance or estimation is better when combining both data sets than when using only the standardized data set. In fact, this gain can be quite important, notably when the species I is rare, which means that Nij is small here. Also, when species I is hardly detected in the standardized data, which means that here Pi0 is small, and also when the total number of observed species is large. Last interesting point is that you can notice that we can estimate Nij divided by Ni1 even when the species I is not observed in the standardized dataset. So this was for the theoretical result. Now let's take a look at what happens with the real dataset. So first, let us consider only the first two lines of the table. So here, the first line is when using only the standardized dataset, and the second one is when combining the standardized and opportunistic dataset. Here, the quantities that I give in the table are numbers that we expect to be between -1 and 1, and we expect to be as large as possible for our estimation to be relevant. So you see that with this real data set, we indeed obtain that our estimations are much better when combining both data sets than when using only the standardized data set. Also, I mentioned here that we can have some results concerning species that are not in the standardized data set when combining both data sets. The next lines are following the following idea. In fact, the standardized data set that we had was in fact quite large, which is so it was a very good standardized data set. And we wonder whether our results would be the same with a smaller data set. So we took only 1/10 of the observation of the initial data set and did the same. And you see that in that case, the standardized data set becomes very poor, whereas the combination of both data sets remains quite relevant. And finally, this is the kind of relative abundance map that we can obtain through this method. I will now go to the second situation, so air quality monitoring. This is a work in progress with Jean-Michel Poggi and Benjamin Oder, both working in Université Paris-Saclay. So our aim in this work is to establish some concentration maps in some particles like nitrogen dioxide or some particulate matters. This is an example of concentration map that comes from, that is an output of a deterministic physico-chemical model called CIRAN. And to make these concentration maps, we assume that we have three data sets. The first one is a deterministic, the output of a deterministic physico-chemical model. So it's a set of maps, at different times. The second data set is a set of measurements made by fixed stations that are very precise, but very expensive. So we have few stations like this. And finally, the third data set is a set of measurements made by microsensors that are much less precise and that have a bias in their measures, but that are much cheaper. So we have a large number of them. So our approach is to start with the physical-chemical model, to model its bias, and to estimate its bias using the measures. More precisely, our model is the following. So the concentration Cx of t is the quantity that we want to estimate. We assume that the model output is gives us a value mx of t, which is equal to the real concentration plus a bias plus some error. And our main modeling assumption is that this bias is equal to B1 of x plus B2 of x times the real concentration. And here, B1 and B2 will be a constant by part functions. The regions on which these functions are constant is an important part of the model and should be should result from discussions with specialists. Next, the fixed station data, the measures will be equal to the real concentration plus some noise, whereas the microsensors data measures will be an affine transformation of this real concentration plus some noise again. So the parameters in this model are B1, B2, alpha I and beta I, and they can be estimating using all this data as soon as in each region in which B1 and B2 are constant, we have at least one fixed station. I won't detail more the results that we have for the moment because it's a work in progress. The typical questions that we have are, can microsensors help improving concentration maps? If so, how many microsensors do we need, should we have? And also, what is the optimal spatial distribution for fixed stations and for microsensors? Thank you very much. I will stop here.